Thanks for joining us. My name is Andrew Townsend. I'm marketing operations here at Smarty. Today's webinar is about how different companies are making money and saving money with address data, and we're really excited to get started. So today we have Kasia McCoy and Ryan Muir, two of our product marketing managers with us. We're excited to hear what they're going to share with you. So without further ado, Kasia and Ryan.
Welcome, everybody. Glad to be with you here. Today we'll be covering a few case studies of people who've used Smarty, as Andrew said, and we'll be going into the details of kind of the products that they used and the different results they've seen, as well as some other ways people in similar industries could apply the Smarty products to get the most for their benefit there.
Nice. So without further ado, let's start. Oh, there's that sweet slide with our names. All right, first one,
Yeah.
Ryan.
So Curatus is a company that provides data to like um, healthcare service providers. They specifically map out provider information, and so that um, health insurance companies can map physicians and provide better service to insureds as well as for the doctors themselves. So they were receiving a lot of bad data from their providers, and it was causing problems. So especially with regards to compliance, there's a lot of government regulations in the healthcare industry, and being able to stay on top of those requirements requires rigorous upkeep of your data. And so for that, overcoming those bottlenecks, they enlisted Smarty's help. Curatus wasn't new to the address data world. They'd been using it before, and they switched over to Smarty after a free trial, and they ended up using our rooftop geocoding. So our rooftop geocoding includes address verification, which is key for their use case, especially where they are trying to verify and standardize the address, and as well as map out down to the exact suite level as to where these doctors are located, so that health insurance companies can provide accurate data, both in like if you think of physicians, or like find a physician near me type thing on your healthcare data, being able to find that, as well as not having duplicate data in systems and things like that. So, well,
Is it
what
weird that I assume also that this stock photo on the right is that awkward guy? The like it just cut off. You can't see, but the from head up is just
just a
the
little bit.
uncomfortable older guy.
I hope so.
You could see it, it's obviously there. One of the big things they found out is like as many as 45% of directory locations were inaccurate. So that's a really big problem, especially if you're trying to go see your doctor appointment, it's in the wrong spot. But again, bouncing back to compliance, that's a bigger issue. On top of 45% being inaccurate, they've had as much as like every two addresses were a duplicate address. As many as 333 were the same provider at one point as well. So that caused obvious issues.
So wait, before this, do you know if they were using a different type of geocoding or just nothing at all?
They were using a different provider for
Okay.
their geocodes before switching over to Smarty, but they were able to get some sweet benefits out of it, and we'll cover that too near the end. They uh, they were able to get about 15% better address location data, and again, in a place where you're dealing with 45%, directory locations being inaccurate, that's massive. And
Yeah.
and we're not talking just the main building. We're talking down to the suite level, which is what some that Smarty is really good at finding, is the exact suites and floors and things as you're going to your doctor's office.
Yeah, because other providers, their geocoding is probably not going to be down to the actual, right?
Yeah, you may not be able to get down to the suite value. You sometimes, I don't know if you've ever seen it before, but you see type in an address and it says missing a secondary indicator.
Mhm.
That's a lot of what they'll see here as well. So this helps them overcome.
Great. So now on to Hippo. Still,
Hippo.
Ryan's all over this.
Hippo is a property and casualty insurance company. They're especially interested in predicting future risks for pre-construction. So, you get all those new subdivisions coming in, whether it's in the county level, the state level, city level. There's a ton of new homes coming in, vacation homes even. They were particularly looking at the coastal homes down in the Florida area, and being able to insure those based on their actual location of the building itself, not just the address. And again, this is another one where secondary address comes into play, that secondary indicator, because they need to be able to pinpoint down to like the exact home that's being insured. We have one example of a home in Florida where they all share the same address, but it's about, I think it's 20, almost 20 individual suites. So that's a lot bigger risk to insure than just a single home. So they were able to use our data to find the exact roof location of a home and be able to pinpoint it and then attach their risk analysis data to that ordnance location. So again, the rooftop accuracy, very key here. Just having the parcels not as accurate as having, your obvious down to your exact roof. And they were able to predict what the risk level would be, how much premium needed to be to make sure the program was solvent so that they could pay out claims and things like that if that were to happen, as well as pricing the risk more accurately. So that very much helped them get that going. They also use our address autocomplete, so it helps them fill out forms and get applications submitted quickly.
Great.
I'd be curious to know how many homes, especially when it comes to calculating risk like this, how many homes benefit from having a rooftop geocode instead of just a parcel geocode. I would think that for my home that's on less than a quarter of an acre, right, and is pretty small, I would imagine that needing a geocode on a rooftop is less important than it would be for a larger home on a much larger property, right?
Yeah.
But maybe in Florida, especially if it's right on the coast, they're going to have a different range. It might be really skinny, but a really long parcel with the home on one end.
Right. And, that is a good point. But if you think about Florida's often catastrophe modeling, right? Your home out here in Orem and things like that. Like in Utah, like our location may be more just our general property insurance. But still a very common, I was a former licensed agent, I should say. A very common question you see is like feet from a fire hydrant, right? And things like that. And they are worried down to the feet, right? So like if you're within like 85 feet, your price is much different than say 100 feet even, just because how easy is it to put out a fire with the fire hydrant closer versus trying to string hoses together, and your risk goes up because of
the amount of time that the home is burning.
Right, exactly. And so being able to have it down to that level matters, especially even where you're talking maybe 25, 50 feet to a driveway, from a driveway to the doorstep that's maybe unaccounted for.
Sure.
That could be enough to set your rates a little bit higher than somebody else's rates.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Great. On to Lightstream. So Lightstream is in the telecom space, but the way that they use Smarty, it applies to really any industry, I would say, because they use specifically, they had incorrect and incomplete addresses in their database, meaning a piece of the address was missing. So most likely it was a secondary indicator, which would be an apartment number, a suite number, a lobby number, any of those things that are secondary on the second line of the address. That's what they were missing or probably missing. So the way that they use Smarty is that they have address verification and they use it for data cleansing. So good practices, I know you guys already know this out there, but you should be cleansing your data periodically. I've heard the worst is like once a quarter, like at the very least, I should say, not the worst. At the very least once a quarter, but hopefully more often than that. And so with Smarty, when they implemented address verification, they were able to cleanse 10 to 15% of bad address data. And that, I don't think they shared with us the exact number of addresses they had.
Yeah.
But that is probably, I'm guessing, thousands. Could even be like millions.
Oh, yeah. There's a ton of addresses.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing cleansed means more like purged.
You are correct. Like,
okay.
I don't know if they fixed it, because address verification will find those missing indicators and put them in. If there's a typo, they'll fix it. And also if there's duplicates of the same address, they'll put them together. So you just have one. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. So cleansed includes both identifying addresses that are absolute garbage, throwing them out, but also correcting a whole bunch or merging some together, reducing error.
Yeah. I guess cleansed, I don't know how universal that term is, but we use it a lot here, and it just means to do all of those things.
And they were using autocomplete and verification for this one.
No, just verification.
verification.
Just
Very nice.
verification. So they just use it to cleanse their data
Okay.
periodically.
Very cool.
That's great.
Yeah, and that's like I said, everyone should be doing that all the time. Okay, next one, back to Ryan.
Majority is a finance company. They provide banking, especially for immigrants to the United States. Their main interesting thing here as well is that for most of us, when we apply to bank, there's always that question of, do you have your social security number, and trying to map that out. A lot of data they want to collect on you, right? So they can track you down and make sure that you are who you say you are, so that the right person's getting the right money and your banking information is secure. Very much part of their know your customer process. So they're trying to serve a market that doesn't usually have a social security number, because they're immigrants to the United States. So what they've done is, if you had an address, they've been able to set it up so that like a permanent address, that you can then open a bank account and receive your debit card and things like that. So one of their major issues is getting those debit cards delivered to the right location. Again, we've talked a little bit about secondary addresses, right? But that's another one that came into play really big. Being able to find those exact rooms and floors and things like that, those apartment numbers, can be difficult, and getting it sent to the right place can be hard. And we were, again, a second address provider for Majority, and they did start off with one of our competitors, and they were still struggling. They weren't seeing the cards being delivered, and it gets expensive to resend out cards and resend them out, and especially if they have to come back, it gets expensive, and then you have frustrated customers and who can't really use their bank account. So a lot of issues going on there, and they were able to see a 70% decrease in the amount of cards that were misdelivered by switching over to Smarty.
Yes.
So they were using address verification and autocomplete. Again, it's kind of that tag team. You get the information coming in through autocomplete as they're filling up the form initially, and then anything that's either existing or has maybe an alias in there, things like that, and get cleansed with verification on the back end so that everything is accurate.
When you say alias, can you explain a little bit more what that is?
Yeah, alias. We like to use a street down here locally in Utah as an example. There's a street that the local high school had for a while. It was named after their mascot, which was a bulldog. And then the university bought the high school, and they switched the street name to Cougar Boulevard. Mm-hmm. And so both of those streets were accurate. And then the city on top of that was like, well, actually, we want a numerical assigned to it. We had 3 addresses, but they're really all the same place. And the tricky part there is keeping track of them, and as far as which one is which and everything. And if you've got data from vendors, especially coming in, whether that's for know your customer or for risk analysis like Hippo, you want to make sure that you're assigning it to the most accurate recent location. And that's where having Smarty's address verification with a Smarty key that keeps track of all those inherently, all those different variations of that address, is key, because it comes in and they receive that information, and then they tie it back to the most accurate alias that's possible.
So that Smarty key makes sure that the most recent address is always like top priority, right?
Very much so, which is really great when you have a vendor who's already using Smarty key as well, and then you as a company, say a Majority comes in, and you're blending data together, everybody just ties right back to the Smarty key. Makes it real easy to connect all that data. Or if you don't have a vendor that's doing that, but you're receiving addresses from them, you can cleanse the addresses you are getting from that vendor, tie it in with your own customer information or maybe your own other third-party information, so that everything is on the same page, blended perfectly.
Nice.
Yeah.
This just a small mention on that, coming back to Majority, is that this is the principle of an address being personally identifiable information as a substitute for something else, or in addition to other things. I think a lot of people, a lot of the time, are like, well, an address is public information, it's not PII. And yet Majority right there is saying these are immigrants. That sometimes an address is all they have. An address is all they have for PII.
Yeah, and with Majority's case, they were able to reduce that down to, I think, just basically addresses that were not permanent, such as a hotel or a motel or something. and then able to get their customers as they moved to a different location set up again, account that way. And in the case of PII, you can actually end up using the Smarty key as kind of that anonymizer a little bit. So rather than assigning the address to a person, you assign the Smarty key to the person, and that helps hide that address and that PII a little bit better because it's blended into the Smarty key, and Smarty key again will understand the difference. So as you're referencing and making API calls, you'll be able to use that address as necessary.
Pretty slick.
Yeah. Cool. Ooh, now we're to the Fabletics, which is my favorite one.
Finally, the one people have heard of.
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't heard of Fabletics, that's wild. So they're, for those of you who maybe haven't, they're an athleisure brand. So they started out with just female focused. And something that's really interesting about Fabletics is that they're a a digital first brand. I was gonna say digital native. You got it. So they actually just started on web, like just doing web orders first. So they were an e-commerce store first. Now they have like 95 brick and mortar locations, but because they were digital native, I think is how they say it first, they were really concerned with their experience on the website. And they had a unique subscription type of like it's not a usual subscription service where like the ones you get now. It's unique in that like they had a format you needed to fill out to like pick up your styles, and then they would send you stuff. And anyway, they're like one of the first ones to pioneer that. So they wanted to make sure that their customers were satisfied, and they needed to have a really good experience on their website. And they found out that lots of their customers were using their mobile version, like they're not on their website. I mean, they're not on their laptop or computer. So they needed to make that an even better experience. And so they implemented Smarty's US address verification and autocomplete, and also international address verification and autocomplete. So previously, they didn't have any autocomplete at all. They did have a verification, but was with a different, they didn't say who, but a different provider, and they were having problems with missed deliveries. So they wanted to combine everything into one solution because they thought that would be an easier thing for them. And they had a very like robust checklist of what they wanted in their software. Yeah. And one of them was for their address autocomplete to have secondary indicator, to have that secondary information, because a lot of their customers, especially internationally, didn't have just a single dwelling house. So when they went through their checklist, like Smarty checked off all their boxes. So they went with Smarty because of the accuracy and also because of the great support that they were able to have. They were able to get a free trial, which we offer on all of our products. And they were able to test and see what that experience was going to be like. And then if they had any questions, they could just reach out to support. And because they were able to build that relationship, they thought, you know what, Smarty is like checking off all the boxes.
And you talked about support there. So a lot of us really hate calling support.
Right.
And it's a really tedious experience, whether it's your phone or your utilities or whatever cable.
Yep.
Right. That's terrible. How's that different with Smarty, or is it?
Oh, well, it's different because we have real people.
Real people.
So, and you can do chat, email, for sure. I know those too. But I think a lot of people prefer the chat because it's a live human.
Okay.
You can just go back and forth. You can, ask questions and then implement on your own side as to, whatever advice they give you. And then you like problem solve in real time.
That's nice.
So people really like that, which I would like that too, because I hate it when I'm talking to it's a robot.
You do.
And I hate it.
Yeah.
Because, and then usually it's like, oh, I can't answer that. Answer your question, call in. And I'm like, oh, call in at the first time.
Right. Give me a good experience.
Exactly. So Fabletics, like I said, they implemented address autocomplete across all of their markets, and they saw an increase in they said all of the markets, but specifically they were really interested in the international markets, measuring that. And then also with that, they wanted to measure missed deliveries because they were having those as well in the international markets. But this is specifically for new conversions, which again, they're on the mobile. So you have those, they're trying to punch in boop, boop, boop on your phone, and it can be tedious and annoying. And if it's too long, people are out of there, right?
It's wild how many more purchases are being made on mobile these days too.
Yeah. I mean, so you got to make it as easy of an experience as possible. Plus, because they already have like the quiz at the beginning and you're trying to figure out, because they're going to personalize your box and offer suggestions to you, the person's already been like going through a bunch of steps to actually get them to convert. It's like, we have to make this as simple as possible.
Yeah.
And Smarty did that for them. So they implemented Smarty and autocomplete. Boop, people type it in, and then they also do verification right after. So you're definitely going to have a clean address in your database. And it's just verification just in real time right after. If something weird were to happen, like they selected the autocomplete, but then maybe they accidentally had a fat finger moment, which I think we've all been there.
Yep.
Then verification comes in, would fix the typo, and then it would just have a pop-up that says, hey, did you actually mean this? And the customer can just go select it and move on. And so that was great. They saw huge increases. I mean, her name was Mel. She talked to us.
Her name still is Mel too.
You are still is Mel. They were super excited with the France, just the 1.6.
Yeah.
But then as they kept on seeing other increases, they got even more excited. Canada, 9.2. What?
Solid.
And like they're a huge brand.
Yeah.
So it's just like a 1% increase is massive. So
And that's attacking it on the global front, really. Like it's getting Germany, Canada, Spain, France, like
Yeah.
that's all over the place. So Smarty's more capable of helping outside the US as well, not just within the US market.
yes, exactly. And then they saw an increase in men converting too, because they had just launched a men's line. So that was exciting for them. But yeah, so that's kind of the Fabletics story, the golden story. That's my favorite. But
a question, if you can go back one more thing, one more slide.
oh, sure.
Sorry, one more. Okay, so here in the bottom left corner, we talked about products used. You use address verification and autocomplete, and then international address verification and autocomplete. And we've seen how they use this. So the verification does take place on the back end, but Fabletics found a way to make that display on the front end. Can you talk a little bit about that?
That's just the experience that they wanted for their customers. So
Okay.
they have their own internal dev team. So and our API is really flexible. They're able to configure however you want to. And so with the help of our support, they were able to get that to be exactly how they wanted it to be for their customer.
That's like something as simple as like a checkbox. I've seen other people program it where you type in whatever you want, and then when you hit submit, it pops up with the validated version and says, verify that this is what you want. I've seen other people, you type it in, you push it in, and then it essentially pops up your autocomplete. Like, here's 3 addresses that are close to what you just typed. Will you pick one? For Fabletics, they put the autocomplete. You type talking. You start typing. You start typing, and then 1, 2, 3. Oh, is this your address? Yep. You click it, and then it can verify. One of the things that I find especially interesting for me about address verification is the postal versus non-postal. You can set up the autocomplete to say, we're only going to display stuff that we can mail to.
Yes.
It may be a real address, but it's way rural, or the USPS won't send anything out there. So we're not going to display this address because we want you to know that you're actually going to get your package here.
Yeah.
And I think you can set the same thing up with verification, where you're like, yeah, we want to include everywhere that FedEx and USPS and UPS will deliver to.
Right.
So we're going to include those non-postal addresses and allow those to be clicked. So setting up that customized user experience for whatever your needs and capabilities are.
Yeah. And then just going one step further on, when you say non-postal, I think are pretty familiar with that, but it's non-USPS address, right? Like they're like, and you did hit on that, but other people may deliver like FedEx or DHL. Like there's other companies who like Andrew said, it's a real address, but just the USPS doesn't deliver there. So
that's one of the drawbacks. I've heard people saying that, they've tapped directly into the USPS verification or their API or whatever, which is great. Smarty gets a lot of our information directly from the USPS as well, but having that additional capability to be able to fine tune exactly what your needs are. And Fabletics specifically found a lot of success in doing that.
Yes.
In building that tailored experience.
And like, it looks just like their brand. It's not like it looks like the Smarty brand. When you pull it up, you configure the API to match your brand. So that's great. because I think on Google's it like looks like Google and it has
Pops
like
up in the
powered by
middle.
Google too.
Yeah.
And that's not on there.
Another question, going back to the second one, property and casualty insurance. If we can go
Yeah.
back to that slide and look at the products used for that one as well. Man, it was way back at the beginning. That's on me. Okay, so there's 3 products used. We talked about these. Now, I know that when I make a call to the U.S. Address Verification API, I'm getting a geocode back. So
Right.
can you help me understand why I would care to buy an additional product? Or maybe, do I really need all 3?
Yeah, so there's a few things going on here with that. So U.S. rooftop geocoding does include verification, and it can verify and standardize. The main difference is it now enables you to go 2 levels deeper on and more accurate, therefore, on geocoding. So
Okay.
with the verification license, you get the Zip 9 geocode, which essentially is 5 to 10 houses on one side of the block.
Sure.
Whereas with the geocoding license, you're able to get down to the parcel and then even more so down to the rooftop and the suite level. And so that's where the big impact comes. And that again comes into play with measuring for risk and risk analysis, risk modeling, being able to measure it down to feet as far as what a risk entails is really big. Autocomplete still a good standby if you're taking any forms or online purchases. You want to have the most accurate data coming in so that everything else can run smoother. So that's a really big one. One thing we're going to talk about with Hippo as well is other places where Smarty could potentially help for companies like PNC companies would be like our property data. So we have data points on what a home is made out of, where it's located, the feet facing the street, the floor plan, the roof type, and we've just recently released property risk data, which includes over 400 data points on FEMA risk values. So again, that's something like where Hippo was especially using this for pre-construction catastrophe modeling. Like that is a major thing that they could have used to improve their risk analysis.
Sure. The pre-construction part blows my mind that we
Right.
have that kind of information before there's a rooftop.
Yep. as it comes through, and we refresh our data at least monthly, to make sure we have the most accurate data available.
Now, when you say like when I have verification, I know I'm getting some geocodes. How do you know that?
Yeah, so verification has 55 points of metadata, and that's included as part of those. And so the 55 points of metadata include things like the residential indicator versus commercial indicator, as well as the geocode is part of that. There's a whole bunch of congressional districts in there. And those 55, we don't nickel and dime you for it. If you have a verification license, you get those 55. Same with geocoding.
Nice. Yeah. And I know like especially for shipping, commercial and residential, there are different options or there are different prices. So being able to find that out soon and get the right price, the best price for you, that's huge.
It's a big strategic
play. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, I'm having you bounce all over your.
Hey, it's a party.
Can you get to the very last slide? We'll wrap it up really quick. I want to say thanks everybody for joining. And if you have any more questions, do send them in. Ryan and Kasia don't have anything going on, so they'll take your questions.
Waiting for those.
We're just waiting for your questions. But we do have a 42-day trial. Tell me about, because we've had the trial for verification for ages.
Sorry, we do have a trial. Currently, it says trail.
We have a 42-day trial. And that is for our address verification. You can also that comes with 1,000 lookups. You can run through those. Tell me about the geocoding trial.
Yeah, geocoding free trial. You'll have 1,000 lookups there where you can process them. You can either use our bulk tool or a single tool, or even connect your API and experience it, all the while experiencing our support team and any questions you have as far as setup goes, and using our docs. So and verification is a very similar boat as well, like same level of support, and you get 42 days because that's the answer to everything, and it'll give you a dozen more days than most free trials to make sure you're completely satisfied with what you're signing up for.
Awesome. So 42 days. Thanks everybody for joining. Thanks Kasia and Ryan for taking the time. We value this has been valuable information and good for us to hear. Thanks everybody for joining, and we'll see you guys next time.